There are moments when a thought comes so unexpectedly and persistently that it feels almost as though it has settled into your very being. It is not a fleeting thought, but one that lingers like a guest who refuses to leave. You try to distract yourself, but it remains, floating in your mind like a cloud that drifts through the sky, no matter how much you wish it would dissipate. This thought is often tied to someone, an ex-lover, a former friend, a colleague who has long since left your life. Yet, despite the passing time and distance, they refuse to leave your mind. Their face appears in your thoughts at odd times, their voice echoing in your memory, their words playing on repeat, as though your mind is unwilling to forget. Perhaps it is the face of someone who hurt you deeply, someone whose actions left a scar on your heart. Or maybe it's the presence of someone who still occupies your thoughts, despite the years that have passed since your last conversation, their memory persisting like a shadow that follows you wherever you go. Have you ever experienced this kind of mental intrusion, where the thoughts of someone seem to flood your mind, even when you try to move on with your life, where you cannot escape the feeling of their presence, even though they are physically far away from you? In Zen Buddhism, these persistent thoughts are not seen as mere distractions. They hold deeper meanings. They are not random or meaningless. They are the reflection of something within you that has yet to be fully understood, processed, or let go. The presence of someone in your mind, especially one who has long since left your life, is not an accident. It is a sign of attachment, a sign of something within you that has not yet found peace. Zen teachings encourage us to look beyond the surface of these thoughts, to inquire into the roots of why they persist. They ask us to examine our attachments, not just to people, but to the ideas, expectations, and unresolved emotions that they represent. The fact that these thoughts take up residence in your mind like an unwelcome guest is not because the person is still physically present, but because there is an unresolved connection between you and that person. A connection that has yet to be severed, a bond that has not yet been fully understood or released. The Zen approach asks us to examine our relationship with these persistent thoughts. Do they come from a place of love, or do they stem from attachment? Zen Buddhism teaches us to recognize the difference. Love, when pure and untainted by desire, brings peace and freedom, but attachment to a person, an outcome, or a specific image of what should have been, brings restlessness and suffering. In this very moment, if you are holding on to the thought of someone who no longer physically occupies your life, ask yourself, is this love or is this attachment? Attachment is not love. It is the fear of losing something, the clinging to a version of what once was, and the refusal to let go. Buddha once said that attachment is the root of suffering. This suffering does not come from love itself, but from the need to possess, to control, or to hold on to something that is beyond our grasp. When you think of that person, does it stir feelings of need, longing, or fear? Does it feel like an open wound that refuses to heal? These are the signs of attachment, not love. In Zen, the practice of mindfulness teaches us to see the difference. When we are consumed by the thoughts of another, we must observe whether these thoughts are coming from a place of love or from a place of attachment. Love, in its true form, is selfless and peaceful. It is not bound by the desire to control, to possess, or to make things a certain way. It is, instead, a natural flow of energy, free from the chains of expectation. When we are attached, we are like someone holding a hot coal in our hand, intending to throw it at someone else. We believe that holding on to this coal will bring us some form of satisfaction or justice. But in truth, it only burns us, leaving us with the pain of clinging to something that is not meant to be held. So, the first step to freeing yourself from these persistent thoughts is to recognize the attachment. It is not about the person. It is about your own need to control or hold on to the past. Zen Buddhism teaches that the moment we recognize this attachment, the moment we see it for what it truly is, the path to freedom begins. We can then begin to practice what Zen calls metta, or loving kindness, a love that seeks only the well-being of others without the need for possession. Metta is not the love that clings or expects. It is the love that wishes for the happiness of another, regardless of whether they are in our lives or not. It is the purest form of love, free from the chains of attachment, and it is the key to breaking free from the mental grip of someone who no longer belongs in your thoughts. As the persistent thoughts continue to linger in your mind, Zen Buddhism offers a deeper perspective. It teaches us that these thoughts are not just random or insignificant. They often point to unresolved karma. Karma, in the Buddhist understanding, is not a system of punishment or reward. Rather, it is the law of cause and effect, a process through which our actions, whether in this life or past ones, create ripples that affect us in profound ways. When someone refuses to leave your mind, it may indicate that there is unresolved karma between you and that person. Karma is often misunderstood as something that only involves direct action, but it encompasses the entire spectrum of human relationships and experiences. The thoughts of this person could be a reflection of unfinished emotional business, a part of your inner life that has not yet been reconciled. Perhaps they hurt you in the past, leaving emotional scars that were never fully processed. These scars can create energetic imprints that linger in your consciousness, making it difficult to let go. Or perhaps it is you who inflicted harm, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and guilt or regret over your actions prevents you from moving on. In either case, karma is at work. Zen teachings remind us that unresolved emotional issues are not mere burdens. They are opportunities to learn and grow. When we are stuck in repetitive thoughts about someone, we are often facing a lesson that has yet to be completed. The relationship with this person, whether painful or joyful, holds a key to understanding ourselves more deeply. The thoughts that intrude on your mind are not distractions. They are nudges, encouraging you to address something that has been left unresolved. Consider the possibility that this person in your thoughts represents a lesson you have not yet fully understood, or an emotion you have not yet fully processed. Perhaps there is anger or resentment that still lingers in your heart, or perhaps there is love that was never expressed in the way it was meant to be. Whatever the case, Zen teaches us that our interactions with others are never accidental. They are part of a larger spiritual process, one that aims to help us evolve and expand our consciousness. Rather than seeing the repeated thoughts of this person as something to fight against, Zen encourages us to view them as part of our spiritual journey. Each time they appear, they offer us an opportunity to ask, what is unresolved? What lesson remains? What emotion has been suppressed? In Buddhist philosophy, the law of karma suggests that we are all connected. Our relationships are not isolated incidents. They are part of an ongoing cycle of causes and effects. The fact that this person keeps appearing in your thoughts is not a coincidence. It is a sign that there is something you need to address, whether it is forgiveness, understanding, or a deeper acceptance of what happened between you. Sometimes it is easy to believe that simply pushing the person out of your mind is enough to end the sufferings. But Zen wisdom teaches us that this is a misunderstanding. Pushing something away does not lead to a resolution. It only prolongs the suffering. True freedom comes when we face the unresolved emotions head on, when we acknowledge the pain or the lessons that are hidden beneath the surface. One way to begin addressing unresolved karma is to reflect on the relationship you had with this person. Look closely at the emotional residue that remains. Is there anger or guilt? Is there love that was left unsaid? Take time to sit with these emotions and allow them to arise without judgment or fear. Zen practice teaches that by allowing these feelings to come and go without attachment, we create space for healing. Rather than resisting the thoughts, we can learn to sit with them in mindfulness. When the face of this person appears in your mind, instead of pushing it away, allow yourself to feel whatever emotions come up. Do not try to control or manipulate them. Simply observe them with a calm, accepting awareness. This is the first step toward resolving the karma. The Zen practice of vipassana, or insight meditation, is particularly effective in this regard. It teaches us to observe our thoughts as they arise, without judgment or identification. In this process, we begin to see that thoughts, like all things, are impermanent. They come and they go, and they do not define who we are. The more we practice this awareness, the less power these thoughts have over us. We start to see that they are simply passing events in the mind, not permanent fixtures. In addition to mindfulness, Zen encourages us to examine our relationship to the person and to the feelings that continue to arise. What are we holding on to? What are we avoiding? What are we afraid to face? The more we explore these questions with an open heart and mind, the closer we come to resolving the karmic bond that keeps this person in our thoughts. Karma is not about blame or guilt. It is about understanding the cause and effect nature of our actions and how they shape our emotional world. When we recognize that our thoughts are a result of unresolved karma, we can begin to view them as opportunities for growth rather than burdens to bear. The key is not to resist or reject these thoughts, but to approach them with the awareness and acceptance that they are part of our journey toward spiritual awakening. Through this practice of mindful inquiry, we can gradually release the hold that this person has on our mind. the more we understand the emotional residue that remains, the more we can heal and integrate it into our consciousness. And as we do, we create space for new thoughts, new experiences, and a deeper sense of inner peace. As the weeks pass and the thoughts continue to arise, Zen Buddhism invites us to explore another deep layer of why certain individuals seem to dominate our minds. It introduces the concept of the shadow self. This term, borrowed from Jungian psychology and deeply rooted in Buddhist thought, refers to the parts of ourselves that we often reject, suppress, or fail to acknowledge. These are the aspects of our personality or experience that we deny or hide, whether because they are uncomfortable or because they challenge the image we have of ourselves. When we encounter someone who seems to dominate our thoughts, it may not always be their qualities that are causing the disturbance. Often, it is our own projected fears, desires, and qualities that we refuse to accept, which we unconsciously place onto others. In the case of the person who occupies your mind, ask yourself, is there something within them that reflects a quality I have rejected within myself? Zen Buddhism encourages us to look at others not as external beings whose actions simply affect us, but as mirrors reflecting back the parts of ourselves that we have not yet fully integrated. If someone's confidence, for example, makes you uncomfortable, could it be because you have not fully accepted your own ability to be confident? If their flaws anger you, is it because those flaws exist in some form within yourself, waiting to be acknowledged? This is the essence of projection. When we are triggered by something in another person, it is often a reflection of something within ourselves. Zen teachings ask us to observe these projections carefully, as they offer us an opportunity for deep self-reflection. Instead of viewing the person as the problem, we must ask ourselves what it is about them that resonates so deeply within us. The Zen master sees the world not through the lens of judgment, but through the lens of self-inquiry. When we are caught in thoughts of someone, rather than directing our energy toward them, we turn inward and ask, what does this person represent in me? Why do I react so strongly to their actions or presence? When you encounter a thought that dominates your mind, gently ask yourself, what am I avoiding in myself? What part of me do I find difficult to accept or embrace? By doing so, you begin to unravel the layers of your own psyche and uncover the hidden aspects of yourself that are seeking integration. This process is not always easy. Often, it is painful to confront the parts of ourselves that we have spent years suppressing. But Zen teaches us that it is only by embracing our shadows, our fears, our desires, our imperfections, that we can truly achieve wholeness. In the light of awareness, these projections lose their power. They no longer control our thoughts or dictate our actions. The Zen practice of self-inquiry can be transformative when dealing with persistent thoughts of another person. When you think of them, pause and reflect on your emotional reactions. Are you angry at their arrogance because you have not accepted your own? Are you frustrated with their mistakes because you are avoiding acknowledging your own? These questions shift the focus from the other person to yourself, creating space for healing and transformation. One of the most profound aspects of Zen is its invitation to view others as mirrors that reflect back our own inner world. By seeing the projections we place onto others, we can begin to disarm them. This is the path of true liberation, where we stop blaming others for our mental disturbances and instead take responsibility for our own emotional responses. This does not mean we must condone or accept harmful actions. Rather, it means understanding that the emotional charge we feel is often about us, our inner work, our growth, and our evolution. Zen Buddhism teaches that the moment we stop projecting our inner turmoil onto others is the moment we begin to reclaim our power. The thoughts that once felt so overwhelming and all-consuming lose their grip, not because the person changes, but because we have changed our relationship to them. By practicing mindful awareness and self-inquiry, you begin to see these projections for what they are: fleeting shadows. They hold no inherent power unless you choose to engage with them. The more you practice observing without judgment, the less you identify with these projections, and the more you can integrate the rejected parts of yourself into your consciousness. Zen wisdom tells us that every encounter with another person is an opportunity for self-realization. Even the most challenging or painful relationships are reflections of the work we must do within. By accepting the mirror that others provide, we are not only able to understand ourselves better, but we are also able to transform our relationship with the world. When you begin to integrate these shadow aspects of yourself, you will notice a subtle shift in your thoughts about that person. The hold they once had on your mind will loosen, not because you have forced it, but because you have embraced the deeper truth that they were never the problem in the first place. The real work was always with you. In the practice of Zen, the shadow is not something to be feared or rejected. It is an invitation to come closer to the fullness of who you are. As you begin to integrate the parts of yourself you once avoided, you will find that the person who once dominated your thoughts will gradually fade into the background, no longer holding the same power over you. As the journey of self-inquiry continues, Zen Buddhism invites us to explore yet another important aspect of why certain people linger in our thoughts. This is the concept of attachment to specific outcomes. In life, we often find ourselves desperately hoping for a particular resolution, whether it's a reconciliation, a moment of closure, or the desire to see someone change. When we become attached to these specific outcomes, our minds become fixated on them, and this fixation gives birth to an endless loop of thoughts, replays of past interactions, and imagined future scenarios. Think about the times you found yourself preoccupied with thoughts of someone. Perhaps you're hoping for them to apologize, or for a reunion that you believe would bring peace. Maybe you desire acknowledgement or recognition from them for something you did or sacrificed. Regardless of the specifics, these outcomes create a mental trap, one in which your thoughts swirl around this person, constantly trying to control or manipulate the future. You replay conversations, imagine how things could have been different, or fantasize about what might happen if only they would act a certain way. Zen Buddhism teaches that attachment to the outcome is a major source of suffering. This attachment to a desired result creates a rigid, fixed mindset, which leaves no room for the natural flow of life. Zen master Shunryu Suzuki once famously said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's there are few." This principle of the beginner's mind, Joshin teaches us to approach every moment with fresh eyes, free from preconceived notions or rigid expectations. Yet, when we become attached to a specific outcome, we close ourselves off from the infinite possibilities that life offers. The act of clinging to a desired result, whether it's the hope that someone will change or that you'll finally be at peace with them, only strengthens the mental grip they have on your thoughts. Your mind, rather than remaining open and present, becomes locked in a cycle of expectation, imagining how things might unfold in a way that aligns with your desires. This attachment can manifest in a number of ways. You may find yourself repeatedly running scenarios in your mind, trying to figure out how to make the person see things your way. You might daydream about a conversation that never took place or a confrontation that might never happen. Each time these thoughts arise, they reinforce the attachment to the outcome, further trapping you in the same mental loop. The person, therefore, remains locked in your mind, not because of who they are, but because you are trying to force them and your relationship with them into a particular mold. Zen practice invites us to loosen our grip on these expectations. We are taught that peace does not arise from controlling or forcing the outcome, but from accepting the present moment as it is. The moment we can let go of the need for a specific resolution is the moment our mind becomes free. This acceptance doesn't mean giving up on desires or losing hope for change. It simply means releasing the tight hold we have on how we believe things should unfold. The Zen practice of mindfulness encourages us to observe our thoughts, particularly the ones that are wrapped up in expectation, without becoming attached to them. When a thought about this person arises, instead of diving into a mental replay of past conversations or imagining future outcomes, simply observe the thought. Notice the emotion tied to it, whether it is longing, frustration, or hope, and then let it go. Allow the thought to pass by like a cloud in the sky, without chasing after it or trying to control it. Another powerful Zen practice for releasing attachment is to cultivate a sense of equanimity. Equanimity, or mental calmness, is the ability to remain undisturbed regardless of external circumstances. When you practice equanimity, you no longer place your peace of mind in the hands of others or in the outcome of specific situations. You learn to accept that life flows in its own rhythm and that your happiness does not depend on anyone's actions or on any particular resolution. Zen teachings emphasize that suffering arises when we cling to the belief that we can control the future or force things to turn out a certain way. When we attach ourselves to the idea of a specific outcome, we limit the possibilities that life has to offer. We miss the opportunity to learn from the present moment and to embrace the unknown. In the case of the person who occupies your thoughts, releasing attachment to how things should unfold allows you to step into the present moment and find peace, regardless of what happens. When we release attachment to the outcome, we open ourselves to a new way of being. We stop seeing our relationship with this person as something that needs to be fixed or concluded, and instead, we see it as an opportunity for spiritual growth. Even if that person never returns or never acknowledges their wrongdoing, you can still find peace by letting go of the need for closure. Zen reminds us that true peace comes from within, not from external circumstances. Letting go of attachment does not mean that you no longer care about the person or the relationship. It simply means that you no longer tie your happiness or peace to them. You can still wish them well, but your mental energy is no longer consumed by the hope that they will fulfill your expectations. By releasing the need for a specific outcome, you free yourself from the mental prison that they have occupied. This is the essence of Zen wisdom: to find peace in the present moment, to let go of attachments, and to accept life as it comes. The more you practice this acceptance, the more space you create in your mind for new possibilities, for growth, and for inner peace. So, the next time thoughts of this person arise, ask yourself, what am I hoping for? What outcome am I clinging to? Then, gently release that attachment. Allow the thought to pass and return to the present moment. In doing so, you will discover that the mental grip they once had on you begins to loosen, and you can finally experience peace, not because the situation has changed, but because your relationship with it has transformed. As we continue to examine the nature of our thoughts and attachments, Zen Buddhism leads us to a profound realization: we are not our thoughts. This teaching is at the heart of Buddhist philosophy, yet it remains one of the most revolutionary and liberating insights one can experience. When a person occupies your mind persistently, it is easy to fall into the trap of identifying with the thoughts you have about them. You may believe that your thoughts are an essential part of who you are, that the feelings of anger, sadness, or longing that arise are an inherent aspect of your identity. Zen, however, teaches us to recognize that thoughts are simply mental events. They arise, they linger for a while, and then they fade away. They are not fixed. They do not define you. The more we attach our sense of self to the thoughts we experience, the more power we give them over us. It is like being swept away by a current in a river without realizing that we are actually the observer on the shore, watching the current pass by. The practice of mindfulness meditation, or vipassana, is designed to help us cultivate awareness of this distinction between our true self and the thoughts that come and go in our mind. When you are caught up in thoughts of someone, whether it is a person from your past or someone who still occupies your present, pause and recognize that these thoughts are not who you are. They are just mental formations, and like all mental formations, they are impermanent. In Zen, there is a deep practice of observing thoughts without getting caught in them. This is where the revolutionary shift occurs. You stop seeing yourself as the thinker and begin to see yourself as the one who simply observes. When you are thinking about this person, rather than identifying with the thought, "I miss them," or "I hate them," you begin to observe the thought itself. There is a thought about them. This simple recognition creates a space between you and the thought. The more you practice this, the more you begin to realize that thoughts are not permanent. They are like clouds in the sky. They pass through, and you are the sky, vast and unchanging. By practicing this awareness, you begin to loosen the grip of identification with your thoughts. This does not mean you stop thinking about the person or that the thoughts magically disappear. Rather, it means that the thoughts no longer control you. You are no longer caught up in the emotional drama they create. You observe them without judgment, and slowly their power over you diminishes. Zen Buddhism teaches that when you truly see that you are not your thoughts, you begin to experience freedom. The mind no longer binds you to past experiences or future expectations. You begin to live in the present moment, free from the mental chains that once held you captive. This freedom does not come from suppressing or denying thoughts about the person. It comes from understanding that you are not defined by them. You are not your anger, your hurt, or your longing. You are the awareness in which these thoughts arise. A powerful Zen practice is to sit quietly and observe your thoughts as they come. Imagine that your mind is a vast ocean, and each thought is a wave that rises and falls. Some waves are small and gentle, others are large and tumultuous, but in each case, the ocean remains calm beneath the surface. You are the ocean, and the thoughts are the waves. By observing without getting swept away by the waves, you can experience the stillness that lies beneath. This practice of observing thoughts without becoming attached to them can be life-changing. Instead of being swept away by the current of thoughts, you begin to see them for what they are, temporary and fleeting. The person who once occupied your thoughts with such intensity begins to fade into the background as you recognize that they are no longer a part of your identity. You can still acknowledge them, but they no longer define your experience of life. In Zen, the ultimate goal is not to stop thoughts or to rid yourself of them, but to change your relationship with them. You can acknowledge their presence without allowing them to dominate your consciousness. You can sit with the thought, let it arise, and then let it go, without judgment or resistance. This is the path to liberation, the recognition that you are not the thinker, you are the observer. The more you practice this separation between self and thought, the more peace you will experience. Thoughts no longer have the power to disturb your inner calm. The person who once seemed to take up residence in your mind will no longer have the same hold over you. They will remain a fleeting thought, like a passing cloud, and you will be the vast sky that watches without attachment. Zen teaches that true liberation comes when we stop identifying with our thoughts and recognize that they are just mental events. When we no longer attach our sense of self to them, we experience the freedom that comes with letting go. You can still think about the person, but your thoughts will no longer control you. You will no longer be a prisoner to the past, to the person who once dominated your mind. You will simply observe, and in that observation, you will find peace. This practice of non-identification is not just about letting go of thoughts about other people. It is a way of living, learning to observe all of your thoughts with equanimity without becoming attached to them. Whether your thoughts are about a person, a situation, or an emotion, you can practice this same awareness. Over time, This practice will bring you a deep sense of freedom and peace, for you will no longer be at the mercy of your mind. Instead, you will be the one who watches and observes the vast ocean that remains calm despite the waves. As you continue to explore the nature of your thoughts and attachments, Zen Buddhism offers another profound lesson: the illusion of permanence. One of the core teachings of Zen is that everything is impermanent, including our thoughts and emotions. This principle, known as anicca in Pali, refers to the transient nature of all things. Nothing in this world remains the same forever. Our thoughts, our feelings, and even the people who occupy our minds are subject to change. When someone continually occupies your thoughts, it may feel as though their presence in your mind is a permanent fixture, something that will never fade. The thoughts of them may feel overwhelming, as if they will never let go of you. You may believe that the pain, the longing, or the frustration that arises when you think about them will always be there, unchanging and constant. But Zen teaches us that this is an illusion. The very nature of thought is impermanent. It rises, it lingers for a time, and then it fades away, just like a wave in the ocean. The same is true for the mental impressions that others leave on us. When we are caught in the grip of a persistent thought, we often mistake it for something permanent, something that will always be with us. But Zen reminds us that all things, including our thoughts and emotions, are in a constant state of flux. Consider the moments when you have been consumed by thoughts of someone. In those moments, it may have felt as if the weight of their presence was unshakable. Their face, their voice, their actions, everything about them seemed to dominate your mental landscape. Yet, have you ever noticed how, in time, these thoughts begin to change or fade? One day, they no longer have the same hold over you. The intensity of the feelings that once accompanied those thoughts begins to dissipate. What once seemed permanent is no longer as powerful as it once was. Zen encourages us to recognize this impermanence and to embrace it. When you think about someone who occupies your mind, remember that their presence in your thoughts is not permanent. The feelings of pain, longing, or frustration are not fixed. They are simply the passing waves on the surface of the vast ocean of your consciousness. And just like the waves, they will eventually pass. This recognition of impermanence is a powerful tool for freeing yourself from the mental grip that this person has on you. When you realize that nothing lasts forever, including your thoughts about this person, you begin to loosen your attachment to them. You no longer cling to the belief that these thoughts will never change or that they will always have power over you. Instead, you begin to see them for what they are: temporary, fleeting, and ultimately out of your control. The Zen practice of mindfulness meditation is especially helpful in recognizing the impermanence of thoughts. When you sit in stillness and observe your thoughts, you begin to notice how they come and go. They arise in your mind, sometimes with great intensity, but then, like all things, they fade away. By practicing this awareness, you can begin to understand that thoughts are not permanent. They are simply mental events, and they do not define who you are. This awareness of impermanence can also help to dissolve the grip that certain thoughts have on your mind. When you think about this person, remind yourself that the intensity of your feelings will not last forever. Just as the seasons change, so too do your thoughts and emotions. No matter how strong or overwhelming they may seem in the moment, they are not permanent. They will eventually pass, and in their passing, they will create space for something new. In Zen, the understanding of impermanence is deeply connected to the practice of acceptance. When we recognize that everything is temporary, we stop resisting the flow of life. We stop fighting against the inevitable changes that occur in our minds and in our lives. Instead, we accept them with open arms, knowing that they are part of the natural rhythm of existence. When we let go of the illusion of permanence, we stop trying to hold on to things that are meant to pass. This applies not only to our thoughts about others, but also to our attachment to past experiences and future expectations. Zen teaches us to live fully in the present moment, free from the burden of past regrets or future anxieties. When we do this, we are no longer held captive by the thoughts that once seemed so persistent and unchanging. One way to practice this is to take a moment each day to reflect on the transient nature of life. Recognize that all things, including your thoughts, emotions, and experiences, are in a constant state of flux. When you think about the person who occupies your mind, remind yourself that they, too, are subject to change. Their presence in your thoughts will eventually fade, just as the seasons change and the flowers bloom and wither. In the same way, your thoughts about them will change, and the grip they once had on your mind will loosen. Zen Buddhism teaches us that true freedom comes from accepting the impermanence of all things. When we stop clinging to the idea that certain thoughts or emotions will always be with us, we begin to experience the freedom that comes from letting go. We stop fighting against the flow of life, and instead, we embrace it with open arms. So, the next time thoughts of this person arise, remember that they are not permanent. They are simply waves on the surface of your mind. Watch them rise, feel their presence, and then watch them pass. In this way, you will begin to experience the peace that comes from recognizing the impermanence of all things, and the thoughts that once held you captive will lose their power over you. As we journey deeper into understanding the nature of our persistent thoughts, Zen Buddhism offers one of the most profound and transformative perspectives. The idea that certain people remain in our minds not because of unresolved karma or attachment to outcomes, but because they represent an unfinished spiritual task. In Zen, the notion of spiritual tasks goes beyond the mundane dynamics of everyday life. These individuals may not merely be people with whom we have unresolved emotional business. They may, in fact, be spiritual teachers who come into our lives to challenge us and facilitate our growth. This concept extends beyond the usual understanding of relationships. Rather than viewing those who occupy our thoughts as simply problematic or negative influences, Zen invites us to consider the possibility that these people are part of a larger, divine plan designed to help us awaken. Their presence in our lives, or more specifically, in our thoughts could be a reflection of a deeper spiritual lesson that we need to learn. In Zen, every person we encounter, even those who seem to cause us pain, is seen as a potential teacher. They are mirrors that reflect our inner world and reveal areas of ourselves that are in need of attention or healing. If someone persists in your thoughts, it may not be because they have a hold on you in a psychological sense, but because they are playing a role in your spiritual journey, one that you agreed to, consciously or unconsciously, before this life began. Consider for a moment the possibility that the person who keeps appearing in your thoughts is a teacher in disguise. This does not necessarily mean that they will consciously teach you lessons, nor does it imply that they are aware of their role. Rather, it suggests that their presence in your life, whether fleeting or long-lasting, is deeply connected to your personal and spiritual evolution. The recurring thoughts about them are not merely a reflection of attachment or unfinished business. They may be an invitation to awaken to something larger, something more profound. In Zen, we are taught to approach these kinds of experiences with curiosity and openness. Instead of resisting the thoughts or trying to force them away, we can shift our perspective and ask ourselves, what is this person teaching me? What lesson remains unlearned? In doing so, we begin to see the deeper spiritual task that lies before us. These spiritual tasks may take many forms. For some, they might involve forgiveness, learning to forgive this person for what they have done, or perhaps forgiving ourselves for what we have done to them. For others, the lesson might be about letting go of the past, releasing the attachment to a specific outcome, and embracing the impermanence of life. And for some, it could be a lesson in self-acceptance, recognizing the parts of ourselves that are reflected in the other person's actions and learning to integrate those aspects of our own being. Zen Buddhism teaches that our deepest growth often occurs through the most challenging relationships. The people who persist in our thoughts are often the ones who help us break free from the limitations of the ego and awaken to a deeper truth. By shifting our view of them as obstacles or problems and seeing them as teachers, we allow ourselves to step into a more expansive and enlightened state of being. One of the most profound Zen practices in this regard is the cultivation of metta, or loving kindness. Instead of clinging to the past or harboring negative thoughts toward this person, Zen encourages us to practice loving kindness toward them. This practice involves sending out thoughts of goodwill, not only to those we love, but also to those who challenge us. By offering them compassion, we free ourselves from the grip of resentment and open ourselves to the lessons they are here to teach us. When we practice metta toward those who occupy our thoughts, we begin to release the emotional charge that has kept us stuck in a loop of mental and emotional turmoil. Through this practice, we recognize that our relationship with them, like all relationships, is not fixed. It is fluid and subject to change, as are the lessons we are meant to learn through them. As we cultivate loving kindness, we also develop the wisdom to understand that these individuals are not against us. They are not obstacles to our happiness. Rather, they are part of the grandest sign of our spiritual journey. Their presence, whether brief or prolonged, serves a higher purpose. And when we are ready to receive that lesson, we will begin to see them in a new light. Zen teaches that we do not need to resist the process of awakening or fight against the lessons life brings. Instead, we can embrace these lessons with grace and humility, knowing that they are here to help us evolve. The more we resist, the more we suffer. But when we open ourselves to the possibility that even the most challenging relationships are an opportunity for growth, we find peace. The person who dominates your thoughts may no longer seem like a problem to solve or a wound to heal. They may become a guide, helping you see deeper truths about yourself. By shifting your perception and viewing them as a spiritual task, you open the door to wisdom and understanding. What once seemed like a source of pain may, in fact, be the very key to unlocking your next level of spiritual development. In the end, Zen reminds us that we are all interconnected. The people who come into our lives, whether briefly or for a long time, are not separate from us. They are part of the same web of existence, and their presence in our thoughts is an invitation to go deeper into our own hearts, to explore our own inner world, and to awaken to the truth that lies beyond the ego. So, the next time this person appears in your thoughts, pause and ask yourself, what is this lesson teaching me? How can I learn and grow from this? And in doing so, you will begin to see that their presence in your mind is not an accident, but a vital part of your journey toward enlightenment. As we continue our exploration of Zen teachings, we now turn to an essential concept that has the potential to bring us closer to true liberation from persistent thoughts: the practice of acceptance. Acceptance is not merely passive resignation, but an active, conscious choice to embrace reality as it is. When we resist our thoughts, when we reject the presence of a particular person in our minds, we only reinforce their grip on us. In Zen, this resistance is often seen as the root cause of suffering. It is the resistance to what is that causes the mental and emotional turmoil we experience. The mind has a natural tendency to push away discomfort, to fight against things we don't want to face. When thoughts of someone arise, especially if they are painful or unsettling, our first instinct may be to push them away, to wish them gone. We might try to suppress the thoughts, distract ourselves, or even criticize ourselves for having them. Yet, Zen teaches us that true peace comes not from fighting against our thoughts, but from accepting them as they are, without judgment or resistance. Acceptance in Zen is not about giving up or resigning yourself to suffering. It is about acknowledging that the thought or emotion exists without identifying with it or allowing it to control you. When a thought about the person who occupies your mind arises, Zen teaches you to simply notice it. Rather than pushing it away or trying to force it to disappear, you observe it with mindful awareness. You say, there is a thought about them, and you let it be. This act of acceptance does not mean that you condone the person's actions or that you agree with their role in your life. It simply means that you are no longer resisting the thought or allowing it to dominate your mind. In the process of acceptance, you may also find that your relationship with the thought begins to shift. Instead of the thought about the person feeling like an uninvited guest that refuses to leave, it becomes a passing wave on the surface of your consciousness. You may notice that when you stop fighting the thought, it loses its power to disturb your peace. It is no longer something that you must chase away. And because of this, it begins to fade naturally, just like clouds drifting across the sky. Zen teaches that this practice of acceptance can be transformative, as it helps us to break free from the mental patterns that keep us trapped. When we resist our thoughts, we are actually reinforcing them. By accepting them as they arise and allowing them to pass, we break the cycle of attachment and suffering that keeps these thoughts coming back again and again. In this way, acceptance becomes a key to liberation. Acceptance also means embracing the present moment as it is, without the need to change or control it. The person who occupies your thoughts may not be able to change, and your circumstances may not unfold in the way you want them to. But when you embrace the present moment with acceptance, you stop resisting what is. You begin to understand that just as the clouds come and go in the sky, so too do your thoughts and emotions. And by recognizing their impermanence, you can release the attachment that causes them to persist. The practice of acceptance also involves compassion, both for yourself and for the person who occupies your mind. When we are caught in thoughts about someone, it is easy to fall into judgment, resentment, or frustration. We may blame them for the pain we feel, or we may criticize ourselves for not being able to move on. But Zen teaches that acceptance involves releasing judgment. It is about recognizing that both you and the other person are human, and that both of you are on a journey of growth and learning. Instead of clinging to negative thoughts or emotions, acceptance allows you to see things as they are, without distorting them with judgment or attachment. In this practice of acceptance, you also come to realize that the person who occupies your mind is not separate from you. In Zen, there is a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings. The person who triggers your thoughts, your emotions, or your reactions is part of the same web of existence. They are not out there and separate from you. They are part of your journey, and their presence in your life, even if it feels difficult, is an opportunity for growth. When you accept this interconnectedness, you begin to see that the thoughts about this person are not a burden, but a message. They are an invitation to look deeper into your own heart and to understand the lessons you need to learn. This perspective shift is powerful because it frees you from the idea that this person is the cause of your suffering. Instead, you recognize that the suffering arises from your resistance to the present moment, to the reality of who this person is and what role they play in your life. This practice of acceptance does not mean you will never think about this person again, or that you will never experience emotions related to them. It means that when these thoughts or emotions arise, you no longer allow them to control you. You accept them as they are, without judgment or resistance, and allow them to pass naturally. Through this process, you gradually release the hold that this person has on your mind, and you find a sense of peace not because the situation has changed, but because your relationship with it has transformed. Zen reminds us that the key to freedom lies in acceptance. By accepting your thoughts, your emotions, and the present moment, you create space for peace to emerge. The more you practice this acceptance, the more you begin to see that everything, even the most challenging thoughts and emotions, is part of the flow of life. As you stop resisting, you open yourself to the natural unfolding of your spiritual journey. And with this acceptance, you will find that the person who once occupied your thoughts no longer has the power to disturb your peace. As we move deeper into the heart of Zen practice, we arrive at a powerful and transformative tool, the art of redirecting with intention. While we've learned about letting go of attachment, accepting impermanence, and observing our thoughts with detachment, Zen teaches us that we can actively transform the energy behind our thoughts and redirect it towards something more beneficial, more present. This practice helps us break free from the mental grip of someone who occupies our minds and allows us to refocus our attention on what truly matters. When we practice mindfulness, we become aware of the thoughts that arise in our minds. But awareness alone is not enough. Zen invites us to take the next step, redirecting our energy with intention. When thoughts about the person who dominates your mind arise, instead of resisting or pushing them away, you can use those thoughts as reminders to return to the present moment. In this way, every thought about that person becomes an opportunity to deepen your mindfulness and to return to your breath, your body, and the present experience. Zen teaches us that every thought is a doorway into the present moment. Rather than getting lost in a mental loop about someone, you can use the thought as a signal to come back to the here and now. Every time their image or memory arises, you can pause, take a deep breath, and return to the awareness of your surroundings. This shift in perspective changes the relationship you have with your thoughts. Instead of seeing them as a source of frustration or distraction, you begin to see them as a form of training, a way to cultivate greater awareness and presence. This practice transforms what was once an obstacle into a tool for spiritual growth. The power of redirection lies in its ability to transform energy. Thoughts are not neutral. They carry emotional energy. When we focus on a person, especially one with whom we have unfinished business, our thoughts tend to be charged with emotional energy, anger, longing, frustration, or sadness. But instead of letting this energy continue to churn in the mind, Zen teaches us how to shift this energy into a more constructive form. By redirecting our attention, we can change the emotional charge behind the thought and transform it into an opportunity for growth. For example, when a thought of this person arises, instead of letting it spiral into resentment or longing, take a deep breath and redirect your focus to your body. Feel the sensation of the breath entering and leaving your body. Become aware of the sounds around you, the textures of the world, the light filtering through the windows. By reconnecting to the present moment, you let go of the energy tied to the person and shift your awareness to something more nourishing. Zen also teaches us that redirection is an act of kindness. not just toward others, but toward ourselves. The more we focus on the present, the more we release the hold that this person has on us. In the same way that a river's current can be gently redirected to flow in a new direction, our thoughts can be guided toward more peaceful, compassionate, and life-affirming states. We can learn to redirect the energy of our thoughts from past attachments toward present awareness, from dissatisfaction to contentment, from judgment to acceptance. This process is not always immediate. It takes practice and patience, just like any other aspect of meditation. But over time, you will begin to notice a shift. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by thoughts of someone, you will experience a sense of freedom and calm. The more you practice redirecting your attention, the less power these thoughts will have over you. They will no longer be able to dominate your mind, and you will find yourself able to focus on what is truly important in the moment. Redirecting with intention is also a powerful practice when dealing with difficult emotions. For example, if you feel hurt, angry, or sad about a person or situation, you can consciously choose to redirect your emotional energy. Instead of letting the emotion consume you or project it onto the other person, you can take a few moments to center yourself. You can choose to transform the energy of your emotions into something more peaceful, like compassion, understanding, or gratitude. Zen Buddhism teaches that our emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are simply energy that arises within us. By redirecting this energy mindfully, we can choose to transform negative emotions into wisdom. Rather than letting our emotions control us, we learn to control how we respond to them. In doing so, we regain our sense of inner peace and freedom. When it comes to the person who occupies your thoughts, redirection also means choosing to see them through a different lens. Instead of viewing them as a source of pain or frustration, you can choose to view them as a teacher, someone who has helped you learn valuable lessons about yourself. This shift in perspective is liberating because it allows you to release the negative energy tied to them and focus on the wisdom that they have imparted to you. Even if they never consciously intended to teach you, their presence in your life has still played a role in your growth. The more you practice redirecting your thoughts and emotions, the more you cultivate a deep sense of inner peace. You no longer need to wait for external circumstances to change or for the person to behave in a certain way. Instead, you realize that the key to peace lies within you. By redirecting your energy, you create space for stillness, presence, and clarity. In doing so, you free yourself from the mental grip that this person has on you. Zen teaches that the true nature of our thoughts is not to be controlled or suppressed, but to be transformed. By practicing redirection with intention, we begin to see our thoughts and emotions as opportunities for awakening. Every thought about the person who occupies your mind becomes a chance to deepen your mindfulness, to reconnect with the present moment, and to transform your energy into something more peaceful. In this way, we break free from the cycle of attachment and suffering and move toward true liberation. In Zen Buddhism, there is a powerful practice known as metta bhavana, the meditation of loving kindness. This practice is deeply transformative, especially when we are dealing with persistent thoughts about someone who has caused us pain, frustration, or even simply occupied our mental space for too long. When we direct loving kindness toward ourselves and others, we shift the emotional energy tied to these thoughts. What once felt like a source of anger, resentment, or longing can be transformed into an opportunity for compassion and peace. Loving kindness meditation, or metta, is an essential tool in the Zen tradition for breaking free from negative emotional patterns. It teaches us to offer good wishes and well-being not only to those we love, but also to those we may have difficulty with. Through metta, we learn to extend the warmth of our hearts to all beings, including the person who occupies our thoughts. No matter how difficult that may seem, this is not an act of approval of their actions, but an act of healing within ourselves. To begin this practice, find a quiet place where you can sit comfortably and close your eyes. Start by directing loving kindness toward yourself. In Zen practice, self-compassion is the first step toward extending compassion to others. Take a deep breath, and with each inhale, think, "May I be free from suffering." With each exhale, think, "May I find peace." As you repeat this, feel the warmth of these words filling your heart. Allow yourself to truly believe in the possibility of your own peace and well-being. This simple act of self-compassion creates a solid foundation of inner peace, which becomes the basis for offering that peace to others. Once you have settled into this feeling of self-compassion, gently bring the person who occupies your thoughts into your awareness. It may be difficult at first, especially if they have caused you harm, but trust the process. With each inhale, offer the same loving kindness to them. May you be free from suffering. May you find peace. May you be happy and safe. As you offer these words, try to let go of any judgment or resistance. Instead, focus on the healing energy that arises from offering kindness to someone else, even if it is difficult. Zen teaches that loving kindness is not about condoning or excusing someone's behavior. It is about releasing the grip that negative emotions have on our hearts. It is about transforming our relationship with the person and the emotions tied to them. When we practice metta, we stop seeing the person as an enemy or a source of suffering. Instead, we recognize that they, too, are part of the human experience and deserve compassion and peace, just as we do. This practice of loving kindness does not have to be limited to a single person. Zen encourages us to extend metta to all beings, including ourselves, those we love, and those we may have difficulty with. This expansive approach to compassion helps us break free from the narrow confines of judgment and opens us to a broader, more inclusive understanding of the world. When we can send good wishes to those who have hurt us, we shift our perspective from one of victimhood to one of power and healing. Over time, the more you practice metta, the more natural it becomes to offer compassion instead of resentment. When thoughts of this person arise, you may still feel a flicker of discomfort, but you will also feel a warmth in your heart that transforms the negative energy into something more peaceful. The person who once occupied your mind with anger or longing will no longer hold the same power over you. Instead, They will simply be another human being on their own path, deserving of the same kindness that you wish for yourself. Zen reminds us that our thoughts are not fixed. They are constantly changing, evolving, and flowing. Through the practice of metta, we can transform the energy of our thoughts, shifting them from judgment and attachment to compassion and peace. This transformation is not about denying our feelings or pretending that we don't have pain. It is about recognizing that even in the presence of difficulty, we can choose to respond with love rather than with a continued attachment to the past. Loving kindness, meditation, is a gentle yet powerful way to release the mental grip that someone has on you. By offering them well wishes, you release your attachment to them and your need for them to act in a certain way. Instead of holding on to resentment or longing, you let go and create space for healing. This space is where true freedom lies. Through consistent practice of metta, you will find that your thoughts about the person who occupies your mind begin to soften. Instead of feeling overwhelmed or disturbed by them, you will begin to feel a sense of peace, knowing that you have freed yourself from the emotional chains that once bound you. As you continue to practice this meditation, you will begin to experience a shift in your relationship with them, one that is no longer dictated by attachment or past pain, but by compassion, understanding, and love. The Zen path to healing is not about erasing the past or forgetting the person. It is about transforming the way we relate to our thoughts and emotions. By practicing loving kindness, we open our hearts to the possibility of peace, not only for ourselves, but for everyone with whom we share this life. As we deepen our exploration of Zen Buddhism, we encounter one of the most profound and liberating concepts: the ability to observe our thoughts without identifying with them. This is a subtle but powerful shift that can transform our relationship with our minds. Zen teaches us that we are not our thoughts. In fact, we are the awareness that observes those thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. By cultivating the skill of observing our thoughts with detachment, we free ourselves from their grip and experience a profound sense of inner peace. When someone occupies your mind, whether it's a past lover, a colleague, or a family member, it's easy to believe that the thoughts you have about them are inherently a part of you. We become so wrapped up in the emotions and narratives that these thoughts bring that we lose sight of the simple fact that they are just thoughts. Zen Buddhism teaches us that thoughts, like clouds, come and go. They are not permanent, and they do not define us. Our true nature lies beyond the thoughts. In the stillness of the present moment, the practice of observing thoughts without attachment is an essential part of Zen meditation. In the beginning, it may seem difficult, especially if your mind is filled with intense emotions or persistent thoughts about a person. But Zen teaches us to simply notice the thought as it arises. There is a thought about them without getting caught up in it. We do not have to judge the thought or follow it down the endless spiral of stories and emotions. We simply observe it, knowing that it is just one passing mental event. By practicing this form of detached awareness, we start to see the thoughts as separate from ourselves. We begin to understand that our identity is not tied to the mental chatter that occupies our minds. This realization is incredibly freeing. The more we observe our thoughts without identifying with them, the less power they have over us. Thoughts lose their ability to disturb our peace because we no longer believe that we are our thoughts. Zen uses a beautiful metaphor to describe this process. The mind is like a clear lake, and thoughts are like ripples on the surfaces. When the lake is calm, we can see clearly, but when the surface is disturbed by the ripples of our thoughts, our perception becomes clouded. The practice of mindfulness and detached observation allows us to let the ripples pass without reacting to them, allowing the lake of the mind to return to its natural clarity. The key here is not to try to force the thoughts away, but to simply notice them and let them go. When thoughts of this person arise, instead of getting caught up in the narrative, observe them as though they are happening outside of you. This simple act of observing creates space between you and the thought. You're no longer the thinker, but the observer of your thoughts. Over time, as you practice this detachment, you will begin to notice that the intensity of the thoughts begins to lessen. They no longer feel like a burden or an invasion of your mental space. They are simply thoughts arising and passing, with no inherent power to disturb your peace. The shift in perspective is a key part of Zen practice. By observing without attachment, we break free from the cycle of identification with our thoughts and emotions. This practice can be especially transformative when dealing with persistent thoughts about someone. Instead of allowing their image, their words, or their actions to take up space in your mind, you begin to see them as just another thought, a passing mental event that does not need to control your consciousness. As you continue to observe these thoughts, you will begin to feel less and less affected by them. You will still think about this person, but the emotional charge attached to the thought will begin to dissolve. Zen teaches that the true nature of our minds is peaceful and clear. The thoughts that arise are like clouds passing through the sky. They are not permanent, and they do not define the vastness of the sky itself. When we stop identifying with the clouds, our thoughts, we return to the natural state of peace and clarity that lies beneath them. This is the freedom that Zen offers, not the absence of thoughts, but the ability to observe them with detachment, allowing them to pass without being swept away by them. To cultivate this practice, it can be helpful to set aside a few moments each day for mindfulness meditation. Sit quietly and focus on your breath. When a thought arises, whether about the person who occupies your mind or any other thought, simply notice it. Label it as thought or story or feeling. Then, gently return to your breath. Do not chase the thought or try to push it away. Simply observe it, acknowledge it, and let it go. Over time, this practice will help you break free from the hold that thoughts have on you, allowing you to experience a deeper sense of peace and presence. This process of detaching from thoughts is not about suppressing or denying them. It is about recognizing that they are not the essence of who you are. You are the awareness in which the thoughts arise and pass. By observing without attachment, you create space for peace to emerge. The person who once occupied your thoughts with such intensity will no longer hold the same power over you. their presence will become just another passing thought, no longer tied to your identity or your sense of self. Zen teaches that by observing our thoughts with detachment, we can cultivate a sense of peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. We do not need the other person to change or behave in a certain way in order to feel at peace. The peace comes from within, from the awareness that we are not our thoughts, and from the ability to let them go as they arise. The more you practice this form of observation, the more you will find that your relationship with your thoughts, especially those about the person who occupies your mind, transforms. You will no longer be enslaved by them. You will no longer feel like a prisoner to your mental world. Instead, you will be the observer, the one who watches the thoughts come and go with equanimity. And in that observation, you will find your true freedom. As we continue to explore the liberating teachings of Zen Buddhism, we arrive at a powerful realization: the importance of impermanence in understanding the mind and our relationship to the people who occupy it. Everything is in constant flux. The thoughts we cling to today, especially those related to the people who haunt our minds, are not permanent. They are fleeting. In the same way that the seasons change and the river's current constantly flows, our thoughts, no matter how persistent they may seem, will also shift over time. When you experience a thought that takes over your mind, whether it is about a person, a situation, or an emotion, Zen reminds us that nothing lasts forever, not even our mental states. The person who fills your thoughts today will not always dominate your mind. This is the core lesson of impermanence, Anika, that nothing is fixed, nothing is permanent, and this includes the mental space that others occupy. In the face of intense emotional reactions, it can be difficult to remember this. The pain, the longing, or the frustration you feel when thinking about someone can feel so real and unchanging, as though these feelings will never fade. But Zen teaches us that just as the moment of joy will eventually pass, so will the moment of pain. Just as clouds move across the sky, our emotions, too, are in constant motion. Nothing remains fixed, not even the thoughts that cause us suffering. To grasp the reality of impermanence is to unlock the door to peace. When we understand that everything, including our thoughts, is impermanent, we begin to let go of our attachment to it. Instead of seeing our thoughts as a permanent part of who we are, we start to recognize them as temporary visitors in the mind. They come, they stay for a while, and then they fade. Just as we would not hold on to a passing cloud in the sky, we do not need to hold on to the thoughts that arise. We can let them pass. 2. Zen practice encourages us to look at everything with the eyes of impermanence. This includes our thoughts, our relationships, and even our sense of self. When we recognize the transient nature of everything, including our emotions tied to the person who occupies our mind, we begin to experience a greater sense of peace. We no longer have to fight against the thoughts or try to force them out. Instead, we allow them to come and go naturally, knowing that they will not last forever. A beautiful Zen metaphor for impermanence is the image of a river. The river is constantly flowing, never stagnant. The water that touches your skin is never the same water that flows downstream. In the same way, the thoughts you have today will not be the same thoughts you have tomorrow. The feelings you are experiencing now, whether joy, sadness, anger, or fear, are transient. They will eventually change. This realization is not only freeing, but it also provides us with a fresh perspective on the people who occupy our minds. They, too, are part of the ebb and flow of life. Their presence in our thoughts, no matter how intense, is temporary. Even if they have hurt us, even if they have caused us pain, their ability to control our thoughts and emotions will pass, just as the river's waters change. The practice of mindfulness meditation can deepen our understanding of this impermanence. When you sit in meditation, observe your thoughts as they arise and fall away. Let go of any attachment to them. When a thought about this person arises, simply notice it, acknowledge it, and let it go. See the thought as a ripple on the surface of the vast ocean of your mind, a ripple that will soon fade, leaving behind a calm surface once more. In daily life, when you notice that the person's presence is overwhelming your thoughts, gently remind yourself of impermanence. This thought is not permanent. It is just a passing moment in time. By recognizing the transitory nature of your thoughts, you can start to release their grip on you. You no longer need to be at the mercy of thoughts that no longer serve you. Instead, you embrace the fluidity of the mind, letting it ebb and flow naturally, like the river that is always in motion. In Zen, the understanding of impermanence is not just an intellectual concept, it is a lived experience. When we accept the impermanence of our thoughts, we begin to experience freedom. The person who once consumed your thoughts and emotions will no longer have the same hold on you. Their presence will feel lighter, less intense, and in time, they may fade into the background, no longer occupying your mind in the same way they once did. This shift does not require force or effort. It simply requires the recognition that everything changes. Nothing in the universe, including our thoughts and emotions, remains the same. And with this understanding, we can learn to let go of the need to control or hold on to these fleeting thoughts. We can allow them to pass naturally, trusting that, just like the river, the waters of the mind will continue to flow toward new experiences. Zen teaches us that when we grasp the truth of impermanence, we stop clinging to the past or worrying about the future. We live in the present moment, free from the grasp of old thoughts or regrets. The person who once took up so much mental space is no longer a source of suffering, because we understand that their presence in our thoughts is temporary, just as our emotions are. By practicing mindfulness and embracing the impermanence of thoughts, we experience the deep peace that comes with letting go. We no longer see our thoughts as permanent fixtures that define us. Instead, we see them as fleeting moments that come and go, just as all things in life do. And through this acceptance, we open ourselves to a deeper, more peaceful relationship with both ourselves and the people who once occupied our minds. As we continue our journey into Zen practice, we come to a deeper understanding of the nature of our thoughts and how they relate to our sense of self. A significant Zen teaching is the practice of letting go, the idea that true peace and liberation arise when we stop clinging to our thoughts, emotions, and experiences. But letting go is not about forcefully pushing things away. It's about learning to release our attachment to them with mindfulness, allowing them to pass naturally, and thereby creating space for freedom. In Zen, letting go is often described as a practice of non-attachment. This is not to say that we become cold or indifferent toward our thoughts or emotions, but rather that we stop identifying with them so strongly. When we hold on to our thoughts about a person, whether it's resentment, longing, or even a desire for closure, we are holding on to the past. We are resisting the natural flow of life. To let go means to release the mental and emotional grip we have on these thoughts, and to allow them to fade when they are no longer serving us. One of the main ways that Zen helps us practice letting go is through the concept of non-identification. This is the understanding that we are not our thoughts. We are the observer of our thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. When you think of this person, notice how the thought arises. Are you identifying with it? Are you attaching emotions such as anger, sadness, or longing to it? Zen invites you to observe this thought and simply recognize it for what it is: a transient mental event that does not define who you are. By practicing non-identification, you begin to see that thoughts are like clouds in the sky. They come and go, but they do not define the sky. The sky remains vast, open, and unaffected by the clouds. Similarly, when you stop identifying with your thoughts, you create a vast inner space where you are not at the mercy of the thoughts that arise. This allows the thoughts to pass without holding on to them or letting them control your emotional state. Letting go is also about releasing expectations, especially the expectation that this person should behave in a certain way, or that the relationship should have turned out differently. Expectations keep us trapped in the past. Zen teaches us that the only moment we truly have is the present moment. When we let go of our attachment to a certain outcome or resolution, we free ourselves from the cycle of longing and frustration. The past cannot be changed, and the future is not yet here, so the only place where peace can exist is in the present moment. This practice of letting go requires trust in the natural flow of life. Zen teaches us to trust that just as the river flows to the ocean, our thoughts, too, will eventually flow away. The more we cling to them, the more they persist. But when we allow them to pass naturally, we return to a state of peace. Letting go does not require force or effort. It is the natural consequence of recognizing that we are not our thoughts, and that our thoughts, like all things, are impermanent. To let go of someone who occupies your thoughts, you must release your attachment to them. This does not mean you stop caring about them or that you suppress your emotions. It means you allow those emotions to arise and pass without clinging to them. You allow yourself to feel the feelings of loss, anger, or sadness, but you do not hold on to them. You recognize that these emotions, too, will pass in time. The more you practice letting go, the more natural it becomes. You begin to realize that you are not dependent on this person's presence in your thoughts for your peace. Your peace comes from within, not from the person or situation outside of you. A powerful Zen practice that helps cultivate the ability to let go is shikantasa, or just sitting. This practice involves sitting quietly in meditation without trying to control the mind, without attaching to thoughts, and simply allowing them to come and go. In this practice, we learn to sit with our thoughts and emotions without judgment. We allow them to rise and fall naturally, observing them as they pass without getting attached to them. Through this practice, we begin to understand that letting go is not about forcing our thoughts away. It is about allowing them to flow without interference. When we apply this practice to the thoughts about the person who occupies our mind, we can begin to see them in a new light. Instead of struggling with the thought or trying to push it away, we sit with it and observe it. We allow the thought to exist. Without clinging to it or trying to change it, we release the need for the person to act in a certain way or for the relationship to be something other than what it is. We simply observe the thought, let it be, and allow it to pass in its own time. Letting go also involves cultivating the quality of forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for your own. Holding on to anger or resentment only keeps you tied to the past. It prevents you from moving forward and from experiencing true peace. Forgiveness in Zen is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is about releasing your attachment to the emotional weight of that behavior. It is about freeing yourself from the mental and emotional hold that the other person has over you. Forgiveness is an essential aspect of the Zen path to letting go. When we forgive, we stop reliving the pain of the past. We stop replaying the story in our minds, and instead, we let go of the emotional charge tied to it. Forgiveness in Zen is not an act of the will. It is a natural consequence of the realization that we are not our thoughts and that we do not need to cling to our emotions. As you practice letting go, you will find that your relationship with the person who occupies your thoughts begins to change. They no longer have the same power over you. You may still think about them, but the thoughts no longer carry the same emotional weight. You will find peace in the present moment, knowing that your happiness and peace do not depend on anyone else's actions or on any specific resolution. By letting go, you create space for new possibilities, new experiences, and new relationships to arise. Zen teaches us that peace is not found in holding on to the past or in trying to control the future. It is found in letting go of attachment and embracing the present moment. By practicing this art of letting go, we free ourselves from the grip of the past and open ourselves to the freedom and peace that come with living fully in the here and now. As we continue on this path of Zen practice, we arrive at one of the most powerful and transformative aspects of the Zen tradition, the cultivation of beginner's mind, Shoshin. This concept, which refers to approaching life with openness, eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions, holds the key to breaking free from the persistent thoughts of someone who has occupied your mind. Shoshin is the practice of seeing everything as if for the first time, free from judgment, expectation, or attachment. It invites us to let go of our fixed ideas and instead embrace the freshness and fluidity of each moment. When we are caught in persistent thoughts about someone, we often view them through a lens shaped by past experiences, hurt feelings, or unresolved expectations. We see them not for who they are in the present moment, but for who they were in the past, or how we believe they should be. Zen teaches us that this attachment to the past, whether it is rooted in anger, love, or regret, keeps us trapped in a cycle of mental and emotional suffering. To break free from this, Zen invites us to approach our thoughts and our relationships with a beginner's mind. What does it mean to cultivate Shoshin in this context? It means to let go of all preconceived notions about the person who occupies your thoughts. Instead of seeing them through the lens of past pain or attachment, you see them as if for the first time without judgment, without expectation. You let go of the stories you've been telling yourself about them and instead approach the present moment with curiosity and openness. This is not about excusing their behavior or ignoring your emotions. It is about releasing the grip that past experiences have on your mind and seeing things with fresh eyes. In practice, Shoshin is about bringing a sense of wonder and receptivity to the present moment. When thoughts of this person arise, you don't hold on to them or react to them based on past experiences. Instead, you observe them with openness, as if they are new thoughts that have just appeared in your mind. You don't need to judge or analyze them. You simply notice them, acknowledge them, and let them go. By doing so, you free yourself from the cycle of attachment and open up space for peace and clarity. This practice is especially important when dealing with the persistent presence of a person in your mind. Instead of holding on to the idea of who they are or how they have hurt you in the past, you allow yourself to see them in the present moment without the weight of old judgments. This shift in perception can be incredibly freeing, as it helps you break the mental patterns that keep you stuck in the past. Zen teaches that when we approach life with Shoshin, we are able to see everything as it truly is, without the filter of our expectations. This is the essence of mindfulness, to be fully present with whatever arises, without clinging to it or trying to control it. When you practice this with the person who occupies your thoughts, you begin to release the need for them to be a certain way. You let go of the stories you've been telling yourself about them and instead accept them as they are in the present moment. By embracing Shoshin, you also begin to approach yourself with more kindness and understanding. Often, when we are caught in repetitive thoughts about someone, we are also caught in self-judgment. We may feel guilty for not being able to move on, or frustrated with ourselves for still thinking about them. Shoshin invites us to see ourselves with the same openness and acceptance that we offer to others. We recognize that we are not defined by our thoughts or by the past. Just as we let go of our attachment to the person who occupies our mind, we can also let go of our attachment to the story we've been telling ourselves about who we are. One of the most powerful aspects of Shoshin is its ability to bring us into direct contact with the present moment. When we let go of the past and the future, when we stop holding on to our judgments and expectations, we can experience life as it truly is. In this moment, free from the weight of past attachments and future anxieties, we find peace. The person who once consumed our thoughts no longer has the power to control our emotional state. Instead, we are free to experience the present moment with clarity and ease. To practice Shoshin with someone who occupies your thoughts, start by observing your thoughts about them with curiosity, as if they are new thoughts. Notice what emotions arise when you think about them. Do you feel anger, sadness, longing, or fear? Don't judge yourself for these feelings. Simply observe them with an open heart, as if you are seeing them for the first time. Let go of the need to analyze or understand them. Just experience the emotions without getting attached to them. This practice of approaching thoughts with Shoshin is also an opportunity to practice forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for your own. When we approach others with a beginner's mind, we stop holding on to the past. We let go of the need for them to be different, and we accept them as they are. In doing so, we release the emotional charge that has kept us tied to them. We stop seeing them through the lens of resentment or regret, and instead, we see them with compassion and understanding. Zen teaches that Shoshin is a way of returning to the natural state of the mind. It is a way of approaching life with an open heart and mind, free from the baggage of the past. When we approach our thoughts with Shoshin, we let go of the need to control them, and we allow them to pass freely through our consciousness. This practice helps us to break free from the grip of attachment and allows us to experience the present moment with freshness and clarity. The more you practice Shoshin in your relationship with this person, the more you will begin to experience freedom from the mental and emotional patterns that have kept you stuck. You will begin to see them with new eyes, without the weight of old expectations or judgments. You will no longer be controlled by the past or by the thoughts that once held you captive. Instead, you will experience the freedom that comes with approaching each moment with openness and acceptance. Zen reminds us that the path to freedom is not about controlling our thoughts or forcing them to disappear. It is about letting go of our attachment to them, approaching them with Shoshin, and allowing them to pass naturally. When we practice Shoshin, we release the past, embrace the present moment, and experience life with the clarity and peace that come from living with a beginner's mind. As we come to the final chapter of our Zen exploration, it is time to reflect on the ultimate teaching of Zen Buddhism, awakening to the present moment. This is where true freedom and peace reside. All the practices we've discussed, observing thoughts without attachment, letting go, cultivating loving kindness, and seeing with beginner's mind are all steps that lead to this ultimate realization that peace is always available in the here and now, and that by awakening to the present, we are free from the grip of the past and the future. Zen teaches us that most of our suffering comes from living in the past or the future. We ruminate on past hurts, wishing things had been different, or we worry about future outcomes, hoping for something that hasn't yet arrived. But the present moment, the only moment we truly have, is always available to us. It is in this moment that we can experience peace, clarity, and freedom. When we are consumed by thoughts about a person or a past event, we are often trapped in the prison of our own minds. These thoughts take us away from the present moment and keep us tethered to the past. The truth is that the person who occupies your thoughts is no longer a part of your present reality. They live only in your memory, and the emotions they stir in you live only in your mind. The more you focus on them, the more you remain imprisoned in your own mental world. But Zen teaches us that we can break free from this prison by returning to the present moment. One of the most profound practices in Zen is simply being present with whatever is happening right now. This is not about trying to change anything or make it different. It is about embracing the present as it is, without judgment or resistance. When you feel the thoughts of someone consuming your mind, simply return to the present. Focus on your breath, on the sensations in your body, on the sounds around you. Notice the colors, the textures, the light. In doing so, you are reconnecting with the present moment, the only place where true peace resides. The teachings of Zen remind us that our thoughts, no matter how persistent, are not who we are. We are the awareness in which those thoughts arise. When you become aware of this, you begin to recognize that the thoughts of the person who occupies your mind are just that, thoughts. They are not permanent, and they do not define you. You can choose to return to the present moment at any time. You can choose to let go of the past and embrace the peace that is always available in the now. The more we practice awakening to the present moment, the more we find that our thoughts lose their power over us. When you find yourself thinking about this person, rather than becoming frustrated or upset, simply return to the present. Focus on your breathing or on the simple act of walking, eating, or listening. By doing this, you shift your attention away from the thoughts that hold you captive and bring yourself into the freedom of the present. Zen teaches us that the present moment is not something we need to seek or acquire. It is always here, right now. We do not need to wait for the right circumstances or for other people to behave in a certain way. Peace is always available in the present moment, and it is through mindfulness, through paying attention to what is happening right now, that we begin to experience that peace. This does not mean that we ignore our thoughts or emotions. It means that we do not become consumed by them. When we are present with them, we can acknowledge them without getting attached to them. We can observe them as they arise and pass, knowing that they are temporary and impermanent. When we do this, we no longer live in the past or the future. We are free to experience life as it is, without the weight of past memories or future anxieties. In this final realization, we come to understand that our thoughts, our relationships, and our emotions are not permanent fixtures in our lives. They are all part of the natural flow of life, constantly changing and evolving. The person who once occupied your thoughts will eventually fade into the background. As all things do, their presence in your mind will no longer hold the same emotional charge, because you have learned to see them as a passing moment in time. The ultimate lesson of Zen is that the path to peace is not about trying to change the world around us or forcing ourselves to forget about the person who occupies our thoughts. It is about awakening to the present moment and recognizing that peace, freedom, and clarity are always available to us, right here and right now. The more we cultivate this awareness, the more we are able to live fully in the present, free from the mental and emotional chains that once held us captive. As you continue on your journey, remember that every thought, every emotion, and every person that comes into your mind is an opportunity for growth and awakening. You are not bound by your past or your thoughts. You are the awareness in which all things arise. And in this awareness, you are free. Zen invites us to wake up to the present moment, to let go of the past, and to embrace the fleeting nature of all things. When we do this, we experience true liberation, and in that liberation, we find peace. May you find the freedom that comes with awakening to the present moment, knowing that you are always free, always peaceful, and always whole.